Dun-dun-dun, 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 dun-dun-dun. Ooh. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special audio fan commentary with myself, Mr. TARDIS11, and Jack the Film Fanatic. And today we are going to be commentating on not a movie, on Doctor Who. Yay, woo! Not the whole show. I mean, God, we'd be here till bloody Christmas 2058. We're commentating on the animated version of Doctor Who: The Macra Terror, which was released. Was it last year? Or was it recently?
Yeah, last year.
Right. Thank you. Yeah. So last year. So this is new. The BBC themselves have done this animation. So we're watching the black and white version just for those Whovians who are unsure about that. So yeah, this is a Patrick Troughton story as well. So from the Second Doctor, I think it was first broadcast in 1967, or was it 66?
67.
Thank you. Okay. So yeah, it's 4 parts long, and I believe the companions in this story are Ben, Polly, and Jamie. So yeah, and just like all the other commentaries, this is a purely fan-based thing. There's no financial profit to be made from this. We're just fans commentating on the story. Can't show the image for legal reasons. If you wish to follow along with us, if you have the DVD or Blu-ray, then pop your timestamp into 0. And again, we're watching the black and white version. So yeah, then when we press play, you can press play. So yeah, that's pretty much all I've got to say. Jack, is there anything you want to say before we kick this shit off?
Just that I hope you don't have crabs. Joking.
Oh, God.
Because we've got the
Yeah.
macro in this.
One thing I didn't realize actually was until just now, I looked on the back of my Steelbook Blu-ray, and as a bonus feature, you actually get the story Gridlock from the David Tennant era, which is the 45-minute episode in his second series where he encounters the Macra, although they're all sort of CGI there. So I find that interesting. It's a Steelbook exclusive extra. I don't know, Jack, if you have the Steelbook, but yeah.
I have the DVD and Blu-ray, but it doesn't matter anyway because I've got Series 3 on Blu-ray. So, but that's a nice bonus.
Yeah, and actually, yeah, there's another couple of Steelbook exclusive extras, but I imagine most of the special features are probably on the on the normal Blu-ray and DVD anyway. So yeah. Anyway, and I think this is in terms of the Macra, they're not the most regular aliens. I mean, the giant crabs. I mean, they haven't. I don't think they've reappeared other than this story and then Gridlock. At least as far as I know. I mean, you could probably enlighten me, Jack, as to if they haven't made another appearance, perhaps in an audio adventure. But I'm not sure in terms of the show whether they're back again.
No, they just appeared in Patrick Troughton's era once, and then they appeared David Tennant once, and I think they might have appeared in a few Big Finish audios, but I don't really know. But yeah, they've only appeared twice on the show, but yeah.
Yeah, well, that's good. It's a shame they don't bring them back, but then again, I'm not watching the new series anymore. So, yeah. And this is actually my first time watching the animation. When I reviewed this story for my channel, I watched the reconstruction, which Loose Cannon did. So at some point down the line, I will be re-reviewing the Macra Terror. So, yeah. But anyway, as of now, let's begin. So, Jack, would you like to do the countdown?
Yeah, sure. 3, 2, 1, go, Jamie.
Go, Jamie, go! Yeah, and it's nice that they're doing their own animation now.
Yeah. You know, I'm really glad the BBC are taking so much care of the classic series now, because like the Macra Terror is a completely missing story, and the fact that they've animated all 4 parts really shows that the BBC care a lot about Doctor Who now, because you know, back in the day, all fans had were the audio tapes of the missing stories, but now we've got them animated, and they've animated the faceless ones, and now they're animating Fury from the Deep, which comes out in the middle of September. So really great the BBC are doing this.
Yeah, it is really great of them, and because before they paid another company to animate for them, but looking at this already, the animation is 10 times as clean as as the previous times they did. And like you say, for a completely missing story, it's nice to have it animated. It's better than nothing, because it would be nice one day to think that maybe every story will exist in some form, even if a lot of them are animated.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting this story introduced a new title sequence, but it kept the old William Hartnell theme until the next story, the Faceless Ones, but yeah.
Oh, I like the fact that they sort of colorized the title sequence and added an animated face of Troughton on there. It's interesting.
Yeah. Oh wait, is your title sequence color?
Oh right. It started out in black and white, but then it was well, never mind. Doesn't matter.
So
I mean,
you're watching the color. You're watching the color version. All right.
Yeah. I thought I was watching the black and white, but never mind. It started out in black and white, which was weird. Wait a minute. Oh yeah, no, I put the wrong disc in. My bad. But never mind.
Oh well, I mean the animation is exactly the same, except yours is in color and mine's is in black and white. But yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is probably the best animation they've done so far for this story and the Faceless Ones as well. Really great animation they've done, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching the reconstruction for this story, and I thought it was decent, obviously, but I didn't think it was anything great. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, is this story where Jamie gets quite a bit more to do in this story?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. That's the thing about Jamie. He doesn't really become a companion. I think until Ben and Polly leave at the end of season 4. But yeah, he gets a lot more to do in this one, which is great.
Yeah. Well, I like how they animated the dancers there.
Yeah. I've always liked this story. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. No. After you.
No, I was saying I always like the sort of 1984 vibe of this story, like the sort of Big Brother is watching you kind of thing. Like there's a lot of surveillance in this story and a lot of like interesting like things going on about like people being controlled in this colony, sort of forced to be happy, and they're sort of hiding the sinister secret. That's what I kind of like about the story. Is you get a 1984 sort of George Orwell vibe, like surveillance and Big Brother and all that. But
yeah. I mean, considering this was made in the 1960s, I suppose it was quite ahead of its time. But then again, they some of the things about surveillance and everything are true to this day. I mean, today we have a lot of surveillance, but yeah, that's definitely the most interesting part of the plot. For me, one of my issues with this story was I think some of the comedy. There's a lot of overlong comedic scenes, mainly in the second half of the story, but the Macra themselves, I really liked, judging from the images that I saw. And there was one little clip that they had, but it would be nice to see them animated. And it actually feels like a completely different story watching it now. But I suppose that was always going to be the case.
Yeah, I mean the thing with this story is they took a lot of artistic liberties with the animation. They didn't do a completely faithful reconstruction of the telesnaps. They took a little bit of artistic liberty with the Macra. Like the Macra in this animation, they're a lot bigger and a lot more intimidating. But I don't mind them taking some artistic liberties because the whole story's missing, and it kind of makes it better because they're not just copying all the shots from the original story. But yeah,
I agree. And I mean this is in Troughton's second series, I think, and actually, is it in his first one?
Yes, his first. Yeah,
it's the first season. Yeah, but sorry, I think by this point he has settled into the role, and he's He's great, Patrick Troughton. He's one of my favourite doctors.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Troughton's my second favourite Doctor to Tom Baker, and I know he's Sam Harrison's favourite Doctor. I mean, I think he had the toughest job of any of the Doctors because he had to come after William Hartnell and try to convince the public that he's the same person, but make the role completely.
Yeah, he had to be the same but different. But he totally reinvented the role. But you still felt like he was the same guy. So I think he did a great job and he succeeded. He helped cement the future of the show, in my opinion.
Yeah. I also really like Ben and Polly as companions. I think they're really underrated. I mean, it's a shame that not many stories with them exist. I think the only full story with Ben and Polly that exists is the War Machines.
Yeah. I mean, I think Ben and Polly are very good companions. Troughton, I think, had some of the best companions in his time. I mean, he had Jamie. Jamie is one of the longest serving companions, and he's fantastic. He goes on quite a journey, I think. I like Zoe and Victoria as well, but I mean, Victoria's not as good, but she has her moments though. I mean, Tomb of the Cybermen is my favorite Victoria story. But yeah, I think Jamie is easily Troughton's best companion for me.
Yeah, I think Jamie's my favorite, followed by Zoe. Yeah. Wendy Papper was great. I really like Ben as a companion. Like, he's sort of this Cockney geezer, and it's kind of a shame we haven't had a Cockney companion in Doctor Who since then. He's like, all right, mate, how you doing, Doctor? All right,
well,
Duchess,
unless we count Bradley Walsh. Well, I mean, he's more Essex, isn't he, than Cockney?
Well, they say Rose is Scottish. She's just from London.
Yeah, Rose. Yeah, Rose Tyler probably. Yeah, would be the next one. Billy Piper's. I never realised Billy Piper was doing an accent until a few years ago.
Yeah, quite posh. I actually thought Michael Craze, who plays Ben, was so perfect, but he's actually from Cornwall, funnily enough. But yeah.
Oh right. Yeah. He's obviously quite gifted at doing accents then. His Cockney accent, I think, is very convincing.
Yeah. That guy there that was talking to the Doctor, the one with the short hair, I think that's Peter. That's Peter Jeffrey, who appeared later in the Android to Tara. He played the Count in that Count Grendel. That guy there with black hair and sort of big nose. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I can't really see the resemblance because this is animation, but yeah, I'm sure he's pretty good in this story. I mean, I don't know about you. I find Polly's haircut. I prefer it when with her longer hair, but she still looks good in this story.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, even in animation, Annika Wills is still pretty hot.
Yeah, I think the character is meant to be sort of sexy. I don't know if this is sort of justified to say. I think Polly was the first companion to be sort of cast for sex appeal. She's a good character in her own right, but I think that was sort of her main appeal to begin with. In the War Machines, she was sort of there as the sort of sexy secretary and stuff, but she becomes a strong female character as her time progresses in the show, I'd say. Hello? I'm not sure where Jack's gone. There was a bit of a connection trouble earlier. Yeah, so far I like the animation. It's actually interesting to watch this in color as well. It has been a while actually since I've seen this story. So, sorry? Is everything okay?
Hello?
Is everything all right?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Well, I thought your connection had died or something.
Yeah, it was a bit of a connection error there, but it's okay now. No, I was gonna say, Annika Wills even said herself that she was probably the first sexy companion. Because I mean, if you think about it, Barbara wasn't really that sexy. Susan wasn't that sexy. She was kind of a teenage girl, and then you had Vicky, who was a young girl. So yeah, I think Annika Wills is probably the first sexy female companion. But yeah, I
Yeah,
like Polly as a companion anyway. But yeah,
yeah. I just wish Ben and Polly had better exits, but that's another story.
yeah, not as bad as Romana's exit.
Yeah, that's true. I still think Ben and Polly were somewhat of an item, you know. I know they never explicitly stated it so, but I think they had the hots for each other.
I think they said in Doctor Who or Sarah Jane Adventures that they got together, but yeah.
Mm. I love how he calls her Duchess. I'm like, why, Duchess?
Yeah. Like, because she's really posh and he's like working class Cockney. Right.
It's weird. I've not seen this story for quite a while, so I've sort of forgotten it, actually. Thinking about it now.
Yeah. No, I've always loved this one because of the sort of, like, it is very relevant to culture nowadays. Like, you know, there's CCTV everywhere and the government's kind of watching you and stuff like that. And this is like, you know, what would happen if, you know, that went to an extreme level and you had a sort of dictatorship and, you know, the government watching you 24/7 and, you know, forcing you to, you know, do what they want and stuff like that, which is quite good. But yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely some of those interesting sort of themes, which I mean, in a way, this story kind of preceded the future. I mean, at the time it was broadcast, obviously the future of what our world would be, to a certain extent, obviously. Yeah, I really like Troughton in this story. Actually, Troughton might be my third favorite Doctor. I'd probably rank him maybe at number 3. I think he's great. He's an excellent Doctor.
Yeah, and I think he's really come into his own by this time. I mean, I thought he nailed it in Power of the Daleks. I thought he hit it out of the park in his first story, but by this point, I think he's sort of really found his feet as the Doctor, and yeah, I think Troughton is excellent, and he's definitely one of my favorites. Like, he's my second favorite. He's great.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's always hard for a new guy to step in and in their first story, you know, you're never going to think, wow, they are the Doctor, unless they really make a good impression. But Troughton made a great impression, and I think instantly people thought, yeah, this guy can do it. I think we're in for a treat. And it is refreshing, you know, to have a new person play this role, and the role is kind of, you know, limitless to reinvention. Obviously, by this point, it's kind of getting tired now, and now they've cast a woman. But less said about that, the better. But Troughton, I think he kept the show going. So without his efforts, the show may have only lasted for 3 seasons.
Yeah, I think without Troughton, you wouldn't have had Pertwee or Baker or David Tennant or even Peter Capaldi. But yeah, he really sort of. I think he set the bar high for all the Doctors that came after him. It was very hard to top Patrick Troughton, and you know, a lot of the Doctors who've been interviewed have said Patrick Troughton's their favorite. Like Peter Davison said Troughton is his favorite Doctor. Same with Colin Baker. Sylvester McCoy says Troughton's his favorite. I think Tom Baker said he liked Patrick Troughton as well, and you know, so I think the majority of the Doctors say Patrick Troughton's their favorite. Even Matt Smith says Patrick Troughton's his favorite Doctor. So most of the Doctors' like favorite Doctor is Patrick Troughton. So it's quite interesting. But
yeah, no, he's an incredibly popular Doctor, and rightfully so in my book. And even though he only did have 21 stories, some of them are quite long, and some of them are really pretty epic. And yeah, he had a pretty fantastic era. There's no denying that. Yeah, I mean, this one was never my favorite Troughton story, but I always liked it. I mean, obviously, I had to watch the reconstruction, so I couldn't really judge it as a proper story. But yeah, he has very few bad stories. There are some that I'm not keen on, but generally this is one of the good ones. Like I would go back to this and enjoy it.
Would you would you watch the Space Pirates if they animated that?
Well, I don't know. Ask me again in about 20 years.
What do you do then? Farming or fishing? We work very hard. Yes. What do you do?
I always like Fraser Hines as well as Jamie. I never realised he wasn't Scottish until you told me.
Yeah, no, he's English, funnily enough, and putting on a Scottish accent. I think a Scottish accent's not bad, but I remember watching it with my granny years ago. I think it was The Invasion. She thought a Scottish accent was a bit ropey, but yeah, I think it's pretty good. But yeah,
Yeah, I think it got better. I think as he stayed in the part longer, it got better. But yes, he did probably slip a couple of times, but I never really noticed it that much. So yeah.
I mean, I think maybe Scottish people would probably notice it more. That but I mean, nonetheless, I think he did a good job. And funnily enough, I think he would actually. Funnily enough, Fraser Hines would go on to become a big star in Emmerdale. I think he played Joe Sugden in Emmerdale Farm from like I think the 70s or 80s, like from the 70s to the 80s or whatever. But yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I mean,
And
I think
building up to the Macra as well, because they're pretty freaky in this story.
yeah. I mean, I kind of find it funny that Russell T Davies brought him back for Gridlock, because they only appeared once in the classic series and they only appeared once in the new series. So it's kind of interesting he brought them back for Gridlock. I mean, I don't think they're nearly as intimidating or threatening as they are in the Macra Terror in Gridlock, but it was nice that Russell T Davies did bring them back, even if they weren't in it a hell of a lot. You know, it was a nice reference to the classic show, and you can tell he's a big classic series fan, bringing the Macra Terror back for Gridlock. But yeah,
I mean Gridlock is one of my least favorites of that series, but I still like it. But the Macra were never my favorite villains. I mean, they're certainly better in this story, but I don't think they got much to do in Gridlock. That was kind of my problem. But I mean, I'll get to that when I review it, when I get to David Tennant's era. But yeah, also Sam asked a couple of questions. He asked, do we own a lot of Doctor Who DVDs? Well, as of me, I don't own a huge amount. I've got the new series on Blu-ray up to series 6, and I've got Macra Terror on Blu-ray, and I've got the TV movie on DVD, and that's about it. I'm slowly building up my collection. I think I would imagine you, Jack, have probably got quite a lot.
yeah. Well, I mean, not to blow my own trumpet, but I have all the classic series DVDs, and I have all the Blu-ray sets of the classic series, and I do have series 1 to 10 on Blu-ray. So I pretty much have all the Doctor Who on Blu-ray or DVD. But I mean, that's been a collection I've been building up for years. I bought my first classic DVD back in 2006, which was Genesis of the Daleks. So it's not like I bought it all in one day. It's been building up over many years. But yeah,
obviously just without Jodie's stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean that's not canon in my eyes, but yeah. No, I mean one thing I will say is, well, Sam said it. He said the 60s is his favorite decade of the show. It's probably my second favorite decade. I'd probably say the 70s is my favorite decade of the show, because you're introduced to John Pertwee, you're introduced to the Master, you have Unit in it for large part. Yeah, Tom Baker. You're introduced to Davros, and you've got really good stories in there, like Spearhead from Space, Inferno, the Demons, Genesis of the Daleks, and Inferno. I think I said. Really good Shada, City of Death. Tons of Wing Chiang, Deadly Assassins. So yeah, 70s is my favorite decadent show, and plus there's more. I mean, everything in the 70s exists. And sadly, a lot of the 60s stuff doesn't exist anymore, especially the Triton stuff. And it's kind of a shame that like Triton and William Hartnell aren't as rated as some of the other Doctors, because I think the reason why is because a lot of their stories are missing, and that's why
Yeah,
some people don't, that's why some people don't rate Triton and Hartnell that high, is because a lot of their stuff is missing and they can't watch it. And yeah,
yeah, it is unfortunate. I mean, that's something obviously out of their control, which is it's certainly annoying. But at least they're animating a lot of the Troughton stuff. I mean, maybe one day they'll animate the Daleks Master Plan. I mean, God, that's going to cost a lot of money, and then that's 12-part story. But yeah, no, I think Troughton certainly has its share of fans. I mean, even Hartnell I think has got some appreciation, but generally on rankings, Hartnell tends to be ranked pretty low, which has always bothered me. I don't know why. Like I've always thought Hartnell was very good as the Doctor. I mean, he was the first one; he had nothing to go on, so I think he did a good job. But some people complain, "Oh, he's just a grumpy old man. He's not the Doctor. He's not an alien." Well, that's the whole point. He has to evolve into that. So, yeah. The first was always going to be the template Doctor for the future Doctors, in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, Hartnell's in my top 5 Doctors. I think he's great, and you know, he really set that template. And if you watch his stories, you see his character go on an arc from this grumpy old git to this, you know, warm, likable grandfather sort of character. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a good cliffhanger with the Macra Terror there, and I like the animation there, and the soundtrack there was good. But yeah,
Yeah, I like that it ended on a pretty intense close-up of the Macra. Good way to reveal it, and I think the animation is great. The Macra.
yeah, you can tell they have a bigger budget with this animation, which is nice.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, and it's important to invest the money in it because I mean, animation costs a lot of money, so but it's very profitable.
No, I'm really glad the BBC are resurrecting these stories. They're taking the audio and they're animating them all, because back when they started animating the stories, like in 2006, like the invasion only had 2 missing episodes, so they only animated the 2 missing episodes. And what they did for a long time, up until 2016, for like the first 10 years of the animation, they'd only animate stories that had a couple of missing episodes. But from Power of the Daleks onwards, they've decided to animate whole stories, and they've animated all the Power of the Daleks, all the Macra Terror, all the Faceless Ones, and they're going to animate all of Fury from the Deep, which is coming out this September, mid-September. So I'm really glad that they've resurrected these old stories in animation so a new audience can see them. Like, it's a really good idea. But yeah,
I agree. It's fantastic, and obviously, clearly, the other ones have been successful enough. Like they've obviously people have been buying them and whatnot. So that gives the studio a bit more of a budget to do some more, and hopefully that continues. And hopefully, like I say, it will come to a point where we can actually have the entirety of the show to watch, and there will no longer be reconstructions. I mean, as great as loose cannon are, it would be nice to watch, to watch the stories rather than listen to them. But we do our best. We do our best.
I do think the BBC said there might be some stories that they can't animate because they were talking about the Crusade, which has 2 missing episodes. It's a 4-part story, but half of it's missing, and they said they couldn't animate that because there's too many characters and too many costume changes, and it'd be very hard to animate. So I think there will be some stories that it'll take them a long time before they eventually animate them, because there's a lot of episodes missing, or there's a lot of costumes or characters within the story, which makes it more expensive. And like Dalek's Master Plan, I don't see them animating Master Plan for a while, because that they would have to animate 9 missing episodes, and it's going to cost a lot of money. And recently they released, I think they released a vinyl of Dalek's Master Plan, like the audio track of all 12 episodes on vinyl. And it's like an HMV for like £100. But yeah, I mean,
Wow.
I don't see them animating Master Plan for a little while, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's fine. I mean that one is the longest story, so it's one of the longest stories. Sorry, so that is gonna take a while. But some of the other ones, like maybe some of Hartnell's era, would be good. I think Marco Polo is going to be a hard one to animate because it's so because there was a bigger budget for that story and it's 7 parts long and it's it's going to be hard to get all those characters and everything, all the detail of that in animation. But I mean, if they give it a go, then good on them.
Yeah. No, I think they've said Marco Polo will be hard to animate because you got all those Chinese costumes and different characters and different locations and sets and stuff. So that'll be quite hard to animate. But I mean, I've heard that they might be animating Evil of the Daleks next, which is the second Dalek story of Patrick Troughton. So it'd be interesting to see that animated because then we'd have both of the missing Dalek stories of Troughton animated, which would be great. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's only obviously the Hartnell and Troughton era where they need to animate some of the stories. Everything else, like after Troughton, everything survives. So that's good. Thank God for that. Obviously, Sharda was a different story, but with the exception of Sharda, everything else more or less survives. So,
yeah. No, I mean, it's great. It really is great. And yeah, I mean, speaking about the story itself, this story, I mean, I think Troughton is really good in this one. And it is a shame that a lot of his performances from his first season don't exist. Only the audio exists. But you know, thank God we got this animation here. You know, and you know they've done a good job recreating what Troughton looks like in animation for the story. And I think if Troughton was alive to see this animation, he'd probably be very happy with the result. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope so. Same with Hartnell. If any of Hartnell's stories survived, it would be nice to think they could see them and see what the the fact that they've tried to resurrect these stories. So, and all for the better of the show. I mean, all for the success of the show. So, yeah, thank God we get to see a version of this story. And the audio survives, thank God. I mean, without the audio, it would have been kind of impossible to really animate these stories. So,
yeah, and we have to thank the fans for recording the audio off their TVs. Like they hold up a microphone to the TV, or they'd plug in a recorder into their TV so they could record the soundtrack. So we really have to thank the fans because all the audio soundtracks of Every Missing Story survives, and without them we would have no audio track. All we'd have is some pictures from the story, and that's it. But yeah,
exactly. And for a review, that's not done really much good. Just reviewing pictures.
Yeah. That's true. I mean, this is pretty good in HD.
Yeah, I think the Blu-ray quality's amazing, really.
Why do you want everyone to be the same?
What were we going to say, sorry?
I said this is a fun story. Like, to me, the plot is nothing groundbreaking, not spectacular, but I quite enjoy it. I think it's a fun romp, and it's a good introduction to the Macra.
Yeah, no, I think this is a really good one. It's probably one of my favorites from the season, just because I like the whole sort of creepy vibe that this one has. Like, there's a lot of suspicion going on, and like I said, it's sort of got that 1984 feel, that sort of George Orwell kind of, surveillance, kind of big brothers watching you, cameras everywhere, sort of thing. I like that.
Yeah. It's quite a good side cast as well, supporting cast. I think they're all very good in their respective roles.
Yeah. Oh, we can't have criticism.
No.
Reminds me of the PC SJWs. They can't take any criticism either.
Oh god, yeah. That's another argument for another day. But yeah. I mean, Troughton, I think, actually has some of the best stories of the whole show. You know, I mean, the War Games, Mind Robber, they sort of speak for themselves, really. I mean, they are just fantastic masterpieces.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Troughton era is probably my. Oh, shit.
Yeah, don't need to shout.
Oh, Polly's sexy face.
There's some good shots, actually. Like, even though, like you said, they've taken artistic license with the story. It's nice to know the animators try their best to make the shots look sort of, in a way, slightly cinematic. Dare I say it?
Yeah. I always really like this scene. This scene's really creepy, where they put gas in a room, and you hear this voice, and he's saying, "Oh, forget everything, you know, obey us, you know, believe in the colony. The colony is good." You know, it's a really creepy scene.
Yeah.
I mean, one scene they did cut out of the animation, which was in the original story and the recon, was the scene where the Doctor and Jamie and Polly, they all get like cleaned up and get put in this machine. But I mean, it was only a minute long scene, or like a 30-second scene. They cut it out, which some purists got really pissed off about. But I mean, it's only like one little scene. It doesn't bother me, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just, I suppose it may have, to the animators, either they ran out of time with the animation, or they didn't have the budget to do that last bit, or they just thought it was unnecessary, so they just took it out. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, go to bed, mate. You Scottish git.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. You got a Scotsman and a Cockney in the TARDIS.
Yeah. And then Polly as well.
Yeah, who's posh. Yeah. I mean, what I like about Ben is he's a bit of a, you know, he's a bit of a lad, you know, and he's tough when he needs, to be. He doesn't take any shit from the Doctor or anyone else. But yeah.
I think Ben is quite brave, actually. You know, he sort of steps up and really proves himself. He's been a sort of sailor, so he's probably seen some hard times on the sea. So he's kind of mentally prepared for most things. I think, whereas Polly is not quite as mentally prepared, but she's you know, I think there are moments when she does gain her courage, but she's definitely the most. I think she's always the most scared of the three. I mean, Jamie doesn't really get too much focus until after they leave, so Jamie takes longer to for us to sort of get to know him. But Jamie becomes quite brave as well, I think, and you can definitely see the Doctor and Jamie grow very close. As Jamie is in all the Troughton stories except the first one. So yeah.
I mean, that's quite a creepy scene when the voice is talking to them in their sleep and trying to brainwash them, but yeah.
Jamie, Victoria.
Yeah. It's funny, Polly only has that haircut for one story. The rest of the story, she's hair long, but yeah.
Yeah, I always found it weird that she cut her hair, but well, I guess maybe Alec Wills came back from holiday or something after this surreal. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know why, but yeah, I mean, you know, it's fine. It's only one story, but I mean, she's still sexy. Hair or no hair.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it doesn't make a difference to the story, but yeah, it's just when you get used to a certain look, it's just kind of jarring. You go, oh, okay, interesting.
I like the bit there where the doctor just said to Polly, "Oh, don't be obedient, question things and stuff,
Well, that's in a way quite good advice when you're traveling with the doctor.
Yeah.
All right, mate.
Doctor, the way you mess about, you could do some damage.
Fucking hell, doctor.
Bloody hell, mate. You need to see a doctor. Like, fucking hell.
You want to see our studio counsellor at the end of the show? Be my guest.
I could see Ben in EastEnders.
Yeah. Jamie.
Yeah, I mean, Triton had actually quite a few companions. He had Ben, Polly, Jamie, Zoe, and Victoria. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. I think he had some of the best companions. I mean, obviously he didn't have as many as Hartnell. But still, yeah. He had some great companions. But you can tell Troughton is one of the most alien doctors. I think that was kind of what drew a lot of people to him, is that they really believed he was an alien. The way he acted, he was so queer and quirky and kind of just out there. And he was more goofy, but I think it worked.
Yeah. No, I mean, he could be serious when he wants to be. Like, in this story and in other stories, in Part of the Daleks, he's quite serious when he's telling them all that the Daleks are evil and they're not listening to him. So he can be serious as well when he wants to be, which I really admire about Patrick Troughton. Yeah. Oh yeah, Ben's been brainwashed now, so he's telling on the Doctor and Jamie and Polly. But yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot about this story. Yeah, I knew there was one story when Ben got brainwashed. So yeah, some great acting from Michael Craze.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, this colony is kind of creepy, the way it's just all sort of like, you will obey us, and if you don't obey us, bad stuff's going to happen to you,
What we can do? It's too far gone to help. No, you'll never be happy like this. All we can do.
Jamie, Victoria.
Can't.
Oh, I always love that bit in the invasion at the very end where he's jumping away from the bombs and he's going, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah, that's quite funny. Yeah, he's getting shot at by the Cybermen and the explosion. He's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah.
I have to do my duty.
Well, you go on doing it then. I'm going to go and find out where the others have gone.
Polly, you better stay here.
Go on, report me.
Look, come back, Polly.
Oh shit. He's been brainwashed.
Pretty Polly, pretty Polly.
Give us a kiss. Give us a kiss.
Where are you? Why do you hide?
How do you kill 5 hours in Rio if you don't samba?
Yeah. How do you kill 5 hours in Mondas if you don't exterminate? I mean, delete.
Yeah. Ugh. That's quite a good shot there of the shadow of the Macra going past Polly.
Yeah.
One thing I will say about Doctor Who is I actually prefer in black and white because it creates more atmosphere. Like, you could do more of like the shadows and like the way it's in black and white, you could do a lot more of the black shadows and stuff in black and white and create more atmosphere and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's as well. That's a product of the time that it was made. Obviously, the '60s was all black and white, but obviously I accidentally put the color version in. But if I were watching the black and white version, I'd probably agree with you. But it's nice that they give you the option, though. it's nice that they give you the option for black and white and color. I think that's something that's you can tell they've really thought this out, and they've been kind in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, I actually haven't watched it in color yet, so I think the next time I'll watch it, I'll watch the color version. But I mean, I always watch the black and white version first because the stories were originally recorded in black and white, so I prefer watching the black and white version. But yeah. I mean, I'm sure the color version's good. I watched a bit of the color version, and the color version actually isn't bad. So yeah, I think I might watch that in the future. Ugh.
Yeah, I mean, it looks pretty good, and it still looks quite dark in some of the shots. But I agree, because it was recorded in black and white, you just feel sort of more obligated to watch it that way. But I mean, it was different with Sharda, obviously, because Sharda was sort of part live action, so you kind of wanted to watch colored animation as well. And that was a Tom Baker story as well. So.
Yeah, I like that point of view shot of the Macra's like eye looking at Ben, and yeah, I mean this scene here where Polly's being picked up by the claw. The original like live action version doesn't look as good as this. It's just this crab that Annika Wills is trying to get away from, and it's nowhere near as big as this. So I kind of like the artistic license here. They've made the Macra a lot bigger and more intimidating, but yeah.
And that's the thing with animation. Even though there's a cost to it, you can do anything. Like you can literally make anything happen. And I love the way it sort of slowly moves back into the shadows, and the eyes are bright yellow. I think they actually look creepier in the animation.
Yeah, I think the Macra look creepier as well because they've made them a lot bigger and sort of changed their look a bit. And yeah, I mean, Polly had crabs there for a minute, but yeah.
Polly, you make a run for it and I'll keep him here. Come on, quick.
Oh.
I think the soundtrack's quite good for this.
So speaking of soundtracks, the James Bond site just posted about No Time to Die's soundtrack will be released on the 13th of November, which is obviously around the time the movie comes out. So, yeah. And it will include the Billie Eilish song, which is interesting.
Billie Eilish.
Yes. I mean, I'm gonna buy the soundtrack anyway. I mean, I've got the other Craig ones, so add it to the collection.
Oh, you got the soundtracks on CD or iTunes? Or...
No, just iTunes, and I download them to my phone. Sometimes when I go for a walk or I'm going to a destination, I just listen to music, and yeah, it's good to listen to a Bond soundtrack.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully this new soundtrack's really good because, I mean, I like the Spectre soundtrack, but they did sort of reuse tracks from Skyfall, Thomas Newman, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that. The Spectre soundtrack was kind of rehashed, but there was some nice tracks in there. I could listen to it and enjoy it, and it does, yeah. But a lot of it was like, I've heard this in Skyfall, you know, and the cover for the soundtrack is the new poster.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, we'll see what Hans Zimmer comes up with. So, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, back to Doctor Who.
I think actually, thinking about it now, this story is a little bit better than I remembered it to be. The pace is certainly a lot quicker. And it's it's quite intense. There's a lot of good tension.
Yeah, no, I've always really liked this one, and I'm really glad they animated it. And yeah, I'm just glad that they're animating all these missing Trident stories now, and yeah, and then hopefully after they animated some more Trident stories, they'll animate some missing William Hartnell stories, because they haven't animated a William Hartnell story in quite a number of years now. I mean, I know Patrick Troughton has more missing stories, but they haven't animated a Hartnell story in years, so it'd be nice if they animated a Hartnell story next. But yeah,
like I say, I think the massacre would be a very difficult one to do. That one's pretty. That's a pretty big story. Just on a scope level, it's quite big, even though it's only 4 parts.
Animate Galaxy 4 or Celestial Toy Maker. I'd like to see an animation of that.
Oh yeah, that would be great. Bloody Cyril.
Ugh. The scene's quite creepy here at the shadows of the Macra. About to kill this guy. I think they say this guy is the controller, but like the Macra have been pretending they're the controller, but ugh.
Ooh. It's such a shame we can't see the original recorded clips and the edited story as it was before, because I imagine this would have been quite scary.
Yeah. Actually, I think on the Lost in Time box set, and I think there is a video on YouTube and they show you all the surviving clips of Macra Terror. And yeah, in the surviving clip of Macra Terror, you see this like giant Macra claw going around this guy's neck and killing him, which you saw there. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean they're basically killer alien crabs, aren't they? So they've definitely got that. Should we skip the credits and just go to the next part?
I don't think so because like my audio, like our audio is like fine at the moment, so I don't want to get our audio messed up.
Oh, okay.
I just think.
Why do we prefer the 60s era to the 80s? Well, because the 60s wasn't run by J&T. I think that's the first answer. You still there, Jack? Yeah, it's so nice to have this story recovered in some way, you know, with the animation. It's a pretty good story. It's pretty good. I never considered it a favorite, but you know, I like it.
Yes, and we're halfway through it now, which is good.
Yeah. By the way, Sam asked the question, why do you prefer the 60s era to the 80s? Well, my answer would be because J&T doesn't run it. That's why.
Yeah. But I mean, the simple factors as well. It's just the writing's better. I mean, you don't have a story in the 60s that is as god awful as the Twin Dilemma. I mean, you come close with the Space Pirates, but even then, Space Pirates isn't as bad as the Twin Dilemma. But yeah.
And also, it's missing, so we haven't really technically seen it. If you know what I mean, we've sort of only listened to it with reconstructed it. Well, no, actually, that's the lie. We've seen, I think, 1 or 2 episodes. But yeah.
Yeah, episode 2. That's the only one that exists out of it. Yeah, episode 2.
I mean, it's a crap episode anyway. They don't do anything. They flipping sit in the room for the entire episode. So boring.
Yeah. It's Nick Payne's least favorite story of the whole show. I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but I can understand why he hates it so much. It is just that story is awful. I mean, if they ever release an animated version of that, we might have to. It'll probably be an audio rant commentary on that. But yeah,
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Oh, it's funny actually. Yeah, I never realised this story is Ben and Polly's penultimate story because they leave in the next story.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I mean, they were in the show for less than a season, I think. Well, just about 1 season. Well, technically they were in 2 seasons because they were in the very end of season 3 of the War Machines, and then they were in season 4 with Triton and Hartnell. But yeah,
Yeah, and obviously season 4 started with Hartnell, and then Hartnell left, and then Troughton came in. So yeah, they didn't have very long with Patrick Troughton, but or Hartnell. I think they had a sort of similar-ish time. But yeah, they had a decent amount of stories, but it's a shame that not many of them survive.
I mean, Triton did 21 stories and Hartnell did 29, so Hartnell did about 8 more stories than Triton, but that's because he had more stories in his seasons than Triton did. I mean, Hartnell, I think his first season had 8 stories, his second season had 9 stories, and his third season had 10 stories, plus he had 2 stories from season 4, and then Triton, all his seasons, had 7 stories, so yeah.
Yeah, even though Peter Davison has 20 stories, which is 1 story less than Troughton, his era is much shorter because the stories are short. So, yeah, he actually has quite, I think by episode count, he probably has a much shorter era than Patrick Troughton.
Yeah, he does, and only that, but Davison has quite a few 2-parters. I mean, you have Black Orchid in season 19, then you have the King's Demon season 20, and then season 21 you have the Awakening, which is another 2-parter. So we had about 3 2-parters, which is interesting.
Jamie.
Victoria. When I say run, run like a rabbit. Right, run.
Run. Yeah, we get to.
I definitely think. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we'll get to Sylvester McCoy at some point.
Yeah, I mean, be interesting to see your reviews this first season.
Yeah, all in good time. It shouldn't be too much longer, actually, thinking about it now. If I get through Davison's era, then Colin Baker's era. Yeah, soon I'll be on to Doctor Number 7.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're halfway through the Davison era now, so
Yeah.
only 10 more stories with Davison, and then Colin Baker has 11 stories or 8 stories if you count Travel Time Lord as 1 story. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. But after Doctor Number 8, I'm going to take another break. So.
What you mean?
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Oh, yeah, I like this scene in the radiation chamber. This is good.
You spy on the others. Watch out, Jamie does.
Is the Doctor basically trying to sort of manipulate him, like sort of kind of trick him into helping them, because he's still Ben is still kind of under influence, isn't he?
Yeah, he's still brainwashed. Yeah. No, I mean, it's interesting. I think the supporting actor, the guy with the beard and the sort of Beatles haircut, I think he's a really good supporting character because he's the only one, before the Doctor and Ben and Polly arrive, he's the only one to sort of question stuff that's going on, and he knows that there's the Macra, or there's something else out there in the colony, but yeah.
Yeah. There's something going on.
Polly's still sexy.
Aren't they going to like die from inhaling toxic fumes or something?
Yeah, I mean they're trying to stop it. I mean I don't think it's radiation, but it's gas or something like that.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, it's sort of interesting that because they sort of question the colony, they're sort of being forced to do all this manual labor because they've questioned the colony and what's going on there, so they're all forced to work for them now. But yeah.
Yeah.
No one knows what it's used for.
We're on part 3 now, aren't we?
Yeah.
Oh no, it has gone quickly actually.
Yeah. I mean, it's only 4 parts as well, which I think helps. I mean, it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's not like 6 parts or longer.
Yeah, some stories in the first two Doctors eras, well, actually, even in Pertwee's era, some of those stories can be a bit long. I think it's 7 parts, or even actually the Invasion was 8 parts, and obviously Dalek's Master Plan was 12, although that benefited from it. I think certain stories in the earlier decade are a bit long, so I think it's good that they kind of reduced the length. I think after Pertwee's era, they thought, well, let's just have 4-parters and then 1 6-parter or whatever to sort of close off. And I think that was a much better format, to be honest. But yeah, also, or probably it's always to do with budget as well. I would imagine they have to kind of work with the budget that they've got. That determines the length of the stories.
Yeah. No, I think that was with Tom Baker. Like with Pertwee, they had with Pertwee's seasons, apart from his first season, which was all 7-parters and 1 4-parter. With Pertwee's 4 seasons, they had 3 6-parters and 2 4-parters. I think they got the format perfect with Tom Baker. Like they had 5 4-parters and then a 6-parter to sort of end the season on. Yeah, I think that works better.
Yeah. See, if I were to, I think when it comes to my ranking of the Doctors, I think I'd probably put Pertwee potentially below Trout. Well, he's below Troughton and Tom Baker because some of his stories are very long and sometimes they're quite hard to get through. Hartnell, I suppose, has a slightly similar problem. I don't know if I prefer Hartnell to Pertwee, to be honest. I'm still thinking about that. But Pertwee is still a great Doctor, no question.
I think Pertwee is a really good era. And one thing I will say is that I think the first 4 Doctors, they all had very long stories. Sometimes, like Troughton, his second season, essentially every story in that is like a 6-parter, which is a bit much. Yeah, I mean, with Tom Baker's last season onwards, every story's 4 parts or less, which I think is a good thing probably, because some of those 6-parters, like some of the 6-parters in the Pertwee era and even the Troughton era and even some of the Hartnell stories, some of those 6-parters are a bit dragged out. But
yeah, and I imagine actually airing that week by week, it would take fucking think about it, it would take over a month for the story to finish, on airtime. And I think that's kind of padding it too much. The War Games was different because that was a finale. That was the end of Troughton's era. So fair enough, you want to draw that out, fine. But I think 4-parters were probably better. I mean, when it came to the new series, they changed the format anyway, which probably worked for the better. But I mean, obviously back in these days, Doctor Who obviously had a limited time slot. They had 25 minutes to get the episode on air. So no wonder they wanted 4-part stories at minimum. Like you say, 2-part stories are more or less the minimum. Well, actually, saying that, there's the what do you call it? There's that story in Hartnell's era, which is 1 part. I forget what it's called.
Mission to the Unknown.
Thank you. Yeah, Mission to the Unknown. Yeah, which doesn't even have the Doctor in it. But yeah.
Yeah, people talk about Dr. Light stories now where the Doctor isn't really in it, like Blink and Love and Monsters, but Mission to the Unknown was the first one to not have the Doctor in it.
Yeah. I guess Turn Left kind of counts as a Dr. Light story.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite Dr. Light story, Turn Left. I really love that one.
Yeah. I think because the character of Donna is just so compelling, and it's an interesting plot. The idea of what would happen if Donna never met the Doctor, and it was obviously proven that Donna had to meet the Doctor, otherwise, certain things would happen. Otherwise, the Doctor would have died, and yeah, that's a really, really good story. Did we ever do a commentary on it?
I think we did Stolen Earth Journey's End. I don't know if we did Turn Left, but we could do that at some point.
Yeah, I'd quite like to do that one. Because we haven't really done a Dr. Light story commentary. Yeah, maybe we'll do that.
Well, why would you leave Polly on her own? I mean, I would stay with her all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Don't leave the poor girl on her own.
One thing I will say, it's kind of disappointing about, out of all the Doctor Who seasons, Triton's first season is the most devastated in terms of it's the season with the least amount of surviving episodes. Not a single story from Triton's first season survived completely. All stories have missing episodes or are either completely missing. Like all 6 parts of Power of the Daleks are missing. All parts of Highlanders is missing. 2 parts of Underwater Menace is missing. All the Macra Terror is missing. Faceless Ones, 4 out of 6, episodes are missing. So it's such a shame that hardly anything left of Patrick Troughton's first season and it's a shame as well that his first story, Power of the Daleks, there's not a single surviving episode. It's just such a shame. But I mean, thank God we're getting these animations because these animations really bring these stories to life for a new generation. So
yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, at least the audio survives. Thank God for those fans that recorded the audio, because at least that's something. And with this animation, it's better than nothing. At the end of the day, I acknowledge it's better than nothing, so I can't really criticize it too much. But it's not. It is very much appreciated, I think, by the entire fandom that they're getting these old stories back, and it also helps people to appreciate Patrick Troughton and William Hartnell's eras a bit more as well.
Yeah, and it makes it easier to watch these stories because I know a lot of fans who can't sit through a recon because it's just pictures and audio and some text on screen. And I can understand that. I can understand if some fans can't sit through a recon because it's just pictures and audio and a little bit of text. So it's great that they're bringing these back in animation. They're animating them so people can sit down now and watch them for the first time and enjoy them, which is great. But yeah, and we can add these to our collection as well, which is good.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the reconstructions, they obviously put a lot of time into them, and that's fair enough. I appreciate that, but some of them could be quite hard to stomach, particularly Marco Polo, which was so long and drawn out. If it's a long story, then it does feel like, oh god, it just feels a bit endless. But it does reduce the pacing a bit. But I mean, I give them credit. It was all they could do really until the BBC decided to animate them. So I thank them very much for that.
Yeah, I mean, although saying that, the loose cannon recon of Dalek's master plan that flew by. That was a great recon.
Yeah, no, obviously that one was great. But like speaking mainly about other ones. Oh yeah, also the soundtrack to this story is really good. As you mentioned earlier, it's very creepy.
Yeah, that's what I get with the story. I just think it's a really creepy Doctor Who story, like the Macra and the Jamie hiding and the sort of hiding in the shadows and stuff. And yeah, I mean, I think the cast get a lot to do here. Like Troughton gets a lot to do, Anna Grace gets a lot to do, Fraser Hines and Michael Craze's Ben, they get a lot to do as well. So none of the cast are like wasted here. They all get quite a bit to do, which is really good.
Yeah, I still don't think this is like the best Troughton story or anything but I certainly appreciate it a lot more now. Again, the Mind Robber will always be my favourite Patrick Troughton story, and thank God it all survives. For one thing else, or actually, does it? Does it all survive?
Oh, it does. Yeah, all 5 parts. Yeah.
Oh, good. I thought so.
I think my favorite Troughton story is the invasion and the Mind Robber. I think invasion has 2 missing episodes, so Mind Robber's probably my favorite in terms of surviving stories because it has all the episodes. But invasion has 2 missing episodes. But I think invasion's probably my favorite Troughton story. because that's the introduction of Unit and got the return of the Cybermen and very iconic story. But no, I mean the Macra Terror. It's not my favorite Triton story, but I think it's one of my favorites. I think it's a really good one. One of the best of this season, I think. But yeah, and I'm glad they've animated it. And yeah, I'm looking forward to Fury from the Deep. That's Victoria's last story, and that's been animated, and that's coming out in middle of September. So I'm definitely going to buy that when it comes out.
Yeah.
Fury from the Deep.
Yeah, Victoria. Yeah. Victoria was never like one of my favorite companions, but I liked her. You know, I thought she was good, but she did scream a lot. You know, she was quite screamy. Although she was awesome in Tomb of the Cybermen when she had the gun. But yeah,
she was a bit of a damsel in distress. I mean, I much prefer. I think my favorite. I think when it comes to Patrick Troughton, I think the companions that work best with him are probably Jamie and Zoe. Like, I really loved the second Doctor, Jamie and Zoe, in his last season. I think they work really well. They're my favorite. Like Jamie and Zoe are my favorite second Doctor companions. So, yeah.
yeah.
It's kind of creepy, this face that keeps appearing on screen. Like you don't see its lips move, and that was in the original story. Like it's just a face and the lips never move. It's kind of creepy. This the face that keeps appearing, and just hear this void. But yeah.
Mm.
Sure, that's where Jamie is.
Jamie.
They did a really good job, like lip syncing the animation to the audio as well.
They did, yeah. I think lip syncing to dialogue in animation is one of the most difficult things to do, I think, for an animator. Especially as lip movements in animation are very hard to. It's a subtle thing, but it's very hard to sort of master. But yeah, because obviously when people speak, the lips move at different rates depending on how fast or slow they're speaking and what they're saying. So I guess you kind of have to sort of compromise a little bit and make sort of more generic movements. But it's great. I mean, it's fantastic what they did, and it looks totally in sync. So I'm very, very impressed with what they've done.
And my cousin is learning about animation at her university, and she wants to become an animator. So that's quite interesting. But she's actually quite good at drawing and animation. So yeah.
She should watch this story and get some ideas. I take it she probably watches a lot of animated films.
Yeah, she's into anime, and she's watched like Batman the animated series, and I think I actually might show her some of these Doctor Who animations, see what she thinks. I think she'd like them a lot. But yeah, she's
she
taking the animation. Oh yeah, she likes Doctor Who. Yeah. Although I mean, she's for the female Doctor, and me and her had a bit of a disagreement with that. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's your cousin. I'm sure you'll find a way to respect each other's views. But yeah, fair enough. I mean, if she is female, and she probably is going to be for it 9 times out of 10. So.
Funnily enough, I mean, she's from Northern Ireland, but she doesn't live here anymore. She's been living in England now the past few years with her mum and dad. Like, they live in Nottingham, so. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I'm not anywhere close to that. I'm sort of a few hours away from there. But if you ever came to London, then let me know. I'd love to come and meet you. Obviously, can't at the moment because of COVID, but in the future, perhaps, if you ever come down that way, or if I'm ever coming to Ireland, then I'll let you know.
Yeah. I mean, I've been to London a few times, and it's a huge, massive city, so...
Yeah, it is a bit of a maze, but, there's a few places we could go. I mean, we could go to the BFI, which is it's the biggest screen in the country. It's the biggest IMAX screen currently, and it seats loads of people. Literally, it's just one massive screen. And yeah, it would be great to see a film there or something. Yeah, but it'd be great to meet you though in person.
Yeah, no, I do the same as well. I mean, speaking of the animation here, I really love this scene with the music and Jamie in this tunnel with all this smoke everywhere, and you've got this giant Macra trying to kill him. I think this is a great scene, one of my favorites from the story. Nice way to end the story on a cliffhanger.
Yeah, that was actually quite a good ending because thinking about that was very atmospheric, and yeah, actually, I think this story has actually gone up in my opinion since watching the animation. You know, it is slightly better than I remembered it to be.
Yeah.
I mean, in
It's
terms of
good
the
as well.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say, in terms of the actual plot, I'm not really too fussed about it, but the scariness and the tension is there. It is a pretty decent, fun story. But yeah, the animation has certainly enhanced it.
Yeah. I think what's good as well is that it's not just telesnaps. You can see them moving, and you can understand more what's going on. Telesnap, it's harder to understand. Like a recon, it's harder to understand what's going on. There's an audio with a bit of text, but yeah. Jamie!
Hey, Victoria.
Yeah, it's hard to think that this story came out 53 years ago.
Yeah, that is crazy actually, and to think that we're watching it on Blu-ray as well. You know.
Yeah. I wonder if there's anybody still alive who remembers watching this story and who's seen this animation. And I wonder if there's anybody who notices the difference between the original version and the animation who saw this when it originally came out. But yeah.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, it would be interesting to maybe meet one of those fans if they. I mean, I'm sure they'd be very old now, but if they, the ones who did record the dialogue and all the audio, just to kind of understand what it must have felt like. I imagine it must have looked pretty spectacular.
Yeah. I wonder if any of the original directors from these lost stories have seen the animated versions of the missing episodes that they directed and like what they think. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I've always really liked this one because of the tension, and I think the plot's quite good. Like how this Macra sort of controlling the human colony and fooling everybody that everything's fine. But yeah.
Yeah. Also, just a quick point about the animation, like that moment there with Jamie, I loved the reaction there. They captured the reaction beautifully. The animation can do wonderful things, and for the BBC on the budget they are, to get those kind of reactions is very impressive. They should be very proud of this.
Yeah, no, the animation here I think is really come on a lot from the original 2006 animations. Like the animation of the invasion, it was sort of flash animation, and it wasn't bad, but it wasn't like amazing either. Yeah, not that Flash or Flash, as in from DC. But yeah,
Can you imagine if this story was ever broadcast into the cinema? I'd fucking love to see this in the cinema. It'd be so atmospheric,
Yeah, you're right. I mean, this kind of feels like an old-fashioned, like 30s or 40s Hollywood movie, like Hollywood B movie from like the 40s or 50s, because of the black and white and sort of sci-fi stuff. Um, yeah, and yeah, the
Yeah,
animation is really good. I mean, the animation for the invasion, the other animation, like the Reign of Terror, like it was sort of like flash animation, but here, like they sort of combined hand drawn animation with like CGI and other stuff, and it really works well. Like the animation here is really fluid, and it's not choppy or anything like that. It's not like really stiff or choppy animation. The animation here is like very good, but yeah.
hmm, yeah, and the story holds your interest for all four parts. It's a good story.
Yeah. I mean, like, what do you think of Patch Charm in this one? I think he's really good.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't think it's his best performance, but I think his best performance is arguably the Mind Rubber or the War Games. But he's very good here. He's very commanding, very funny, very energetic. He's perfect for this role. He's got all the qualities that you need to play this role.
Yeah. Oh shit. Jamie's got crabs now. Yeah. I mean, if this was me, I'd just grab. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I think the Macra look really scary in animation.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I mean, if they were at a seafood restaurant, they just shove those crabs into a boiling pot of water like a lobster.
Oh yeah, lobster is actually lovely. I love lobster actually.
Never had it.
Yeah, there's a steakhouse restaurant that sells it as like a side dish. I went there once for my birthday. Oh, it's so nice, that lobster.
SpongeBob, me boy.
Money.
God.
That's another one to
Krusty
do. The SpongeBob
crabs.
movie.
Yeah, we could actually do that. The first movie is great.
Yeah, I know there's a third film which I think is now coming to Netflix because of the COVID pandemic, they're not going to release it in cinemas anymore. But it doesn't look very good. And I think what was there was a second one called, I think it was Sponge Out of Water or something, and this third is Sponge on the Run or something. I don't know. I only cared about the first film. After the first film, the series itself actually I think went downhill, but that's another story.
Yeah, no, I mean, apparently Steven Hillenburg, the original creator, he's dead now. He wanted to end it after the movie, but yeah. No, I think the second movie, Sponge Out of Water, didn't get very good reviews, so I've only seen the first SpongeBob movie, so I never bothered with the second one, and don't think I'll bother with the third one.
Yeah.
Push! Oh god, could you imagine if she was pregnant? Push! Polly, push!
Oh god, yeah. It always creeped me out in that doppelganger two-parter in Matt Smith's era, when at the very end it ends with Amy giving birth. I always found that such a really scary ending when you've got Madame Kavarian peering over and saying, "Here it comes." Push. I thought, well, fucking hell, that's not something you want a kid to watch.
Yeah, that was actually a genuinely good cliffhanger from a pretty series. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, of course, they weren't going to show us the actual birth. I mean, that would be a bit much for a family show. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, don't be surprised if there's quite a few rants during the Matt Smith era. There'll be positive reviews as well of like some of the good stories in there, but there'll be a few rants in Series 6 and probably Series 7. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I know. I mean, you're not the only person that dislikes the Matt Smith era. A friend of mine isn't keen on Matt Smith. Doesn't hate Matt Smith, but was always a David Tennant fan, and just doesn't really like Moffat and the writing. So yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of people agree when Moffat took over the writing, kind of went downhill, but that's a story for another day.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, I don't blame Matt Smith. I just think he was let down by the scripts, and same with Peter Capaldi. He was let down by some pretty terrible scripts in his era as well, like Hellbent and stuff like that. But,
Mm.
Jamie's getting quite a lot to do in this. I mean, he's been in the mine and he's been fighting off the Macra. Like, he gets a lot to do in this story.
Yeah, I think this is the point when Jamie starts to get more to do. I think before this he was kind of in the shadow of Ben and Polly, but because Ben and Polly are leaving, this is a good time for him to get more to do. For me, I'm not gonna lie. I think this comedy is a little bit cringy. It doesn't really fit with the mood of the tone of the story. I know it's only this one scene, but I think it goes on far too long, and it just doesn't feel right. That's partly why I lowered my rating quite a bit of this story. It just feels out of place. I don't know what you think of it.
It doesn't really bother me. I mean, they're trying to make this colony happy. They're trying to make everybody in the colony happy and whatever. So they're just, I can understand what you're saying, but I mean, it doesn't really wreck the story for me. It doesn't damage it that much for me. So, I can understand what you're saying, but at the same time, they're trying to make everybody in the colony happy. So, yeah, it doesn't bother me that much. It doesn't doesn't destroy the story for me. But I can understand if you find it a little bit irritating. But yeah.
Yeah, it just felt out of place. That was all. But, I just realised they've actually got 3 seasons of SpongeBob on Netflix. God, they're the earlier seasons.
Yeah, the later ones. I've seen some of the new episodes and they're crap. Kind of like the new episodes of Doctor Who, but that's another story.
Yeah, they've got seasons 5, 6, and 7 on Netflix.
Oh yeah, they're not the good ones, sadly.
Well, I think 5 was alright. I'm not sure. I haven't seen the episodes for years, but I'm not sure how many seasons did they do of SpongeBob?
Oh, they're still making it. I think there's been 20 seasons now.
Yeah, so they're going as far as The Simpsons.
But the sad thing is, the original creator of SpongeBob, he wanted to end the series after the first movie, but the Nickelodeon decided no, we want to continue on the series, and apparently one of the people at Nickelodeon says he's gonna have SpongeBob on for as long as the network is on air. So it's you could have SpongeBob for the next 20 or 30 years, and it's a bit ridiculous, to be honest. I mean, if the creator wanted to end it after the movie, they should have just done that, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's to keep money flowing and to keep themselves in work, basically. But yeah, SpongeBob has kind of lost his way, really.
To quote another animated series, "Go!"
Yeah. I mean, I always preferred The Simpsons to SpongeBob anyway. SpongeBob was never a massive fan of SpongeBob. I liked the movie quite a lot and some of the earlier series. And I actually have the video game of the first film, so that was another reason why I was attached to it. But I never thought it was the best thing ever. I found some of the comedy in SpongeBob very over the top. But that's just my opinion.
I do think it's a bit of an overrated animated show. I prefer Tom and Jerry and Looney Tunes and Inspector Gadget and Popeye to SpongeBob, but yeah.
Yeah.
I do like the scene here where you see the Macra. They're sort of operating they're sort of operating the city and they're controlling everything, and the Doctor finds out that they're controlling this whole human colony, which was interesting. But yeah,
Yeah, I think also what helps in animation is the fact that you can actually do a lot of great things with lighting that you may not be able to do in live action. This scene is a good example of that with the Doctor and Polly, and the way the blue is kind of sort of shining in on the background, but they Polly appears in like a silhouette. It just creates the atmosphere so well, I think.
yeah, I agree. It does, and that's why I really like this story a lot. Is there's a lot of atmosphere in this, the Macra and all the sort of mysterious things that are happening, like people disappearing and people being controlled, and the sort of surveillance aspect of it. That's why I've always really liked this one. But yeah, and it's great you got Patrick Troughton as well. I mean, I couldn't imagine this with Colin Baker. He'd probably be talking about his craggy knob for 4 parts, but
oh god, the less said about that the better.
yeah, he'd just be saying Excelsior
God.
instead of strangling the Macra, he'd be strangling Polly.
Oh god, I fucking strangled the cat for all I care.
It's funny when we get to your big rant of that story. Oh. God. I mean, what do you think of this face appearing on the screen? I think it's kind of creepy. Like,
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously quite a bit of mystery surrounding that guy. So
yeah. It actually turns out that it's the Macra that are talking, and it's the Macra talking, and they've got like this picture of this random guy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even the subtle things like the head movements and everything of the animation are really good. I mean, more so than like the Ice Warriors and 10th Planet, which I mean, I know the other company did that, and they obviously charged the BBC quite a lot. But to me, the character models and everything look more 3-dimensional, like they move around more. Before, with the other stories, I don't know if you'll agree with this, it looked a bit flat, like the animation looked too flat. Not that it was bad as such, but this feels like it moves more, if you know what I mean. There's more physicality to the animation.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think with this animation, the characters move more like humans. Like, one criticism I will say, the animation of the invasion and the animation of Power of the Daleks is the characters kind of walk like cardboard cutouts. They sort of walk in very stiff, so they sort of waddle across the screen. Characters here, they move fluidly. They turn around. You see their muscles sort of moving and their faces turning and their bodies moving. Like with the invasion and Power of the Daleks, the animation was a bit more cardboard cutout. Like they sort of moved around cardboard cutout. Although still, I did love I think the animation for the moon base and the 10th planet was really good. They made them look a lot like the characters from the stories that they were in, and they moved in sort of 3D animation as well. So yeah, but I think the animation has gotten better as the years gone along. Like the animation for the stories now is really, really good when you compare it to some of the cheaper animation of some of the earlier stories. But yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I guess they've obviously managed to accumulate some more money. I guess they had to fork out a bit for what was the first one they did?
The invasion. The invasion.
Oh, the invasion. Yeah. So clearly that went down well. So I guess sales must have gone down well. So they must have accumulated more money. to afford the other ones. Clearly, it's been working, so good for them.
They must be destroyed.
Yeah. I like the scene where the Doctor finally convinces Peter Jeffrey's character that the Macra are controlling them and they're evil. And yeah, and I think the supporting cast are good. I like the guards, like what they're wearing, and the set design here I think is pretty good. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we can't see the real sets anymore, but other than looking at pictures, but I think the animation has got a close, has recreated closely this. I would say it looks good.
Yeah, I mean they've taken a few artistic liberties, but like the costumes and sets and characters, they all look identical from the original photos and clips and telesnaps and stuff. But yeah.
Mm.
Come on, get in. Come on, you heard the show. Get in.
In a way,
I really hope that.
sorry. No. After you, it's fine.
No, I was going to say, I really hope the last story they animate is the Space Pirates, because I don't want to watch that crap again. But
yeah, well, I gather from the fandom that it's very unpopular, so I don't think they'll be in a hurry to animate that. Plus, there's 5 episodes to animate, so that's going to cost them a bit more money. So they're going to choose the shorter stories first. Before they attempt the longer ones, which I think is a good idea. And in a way, this story kind of I wish was Ben and Polly's true exit. You know, I don't think Ben and Polly should have really been in the next story, to be honest. They should have left in this story because they don't get enough to do in the next story. So, yeah.
I mean, I really like the Faceless ones, but that is my one criticism: is that Ben and Polly are kind of wasted in it. I mean, they're in the first 2 parts, but then they disappear, and then they don't appear again until part 6. And I kind of wish they used them all in the Faceless ones. But you know, I mean, apart from that one criticism, that's a really good story. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when Jamie really gets a lot to do. He really shines.
Yeah, I mean, I think from Evil the Daleks onwards, like at the end of Triton's first season, like from Evil the Daleks onwards, Jamie gets a lot bigger focus because Ben and Polly aren't there anymore, and he really becomes a classic companion in his own right.
Hang on.
Mm.
The other stranger has recovered. He's no dangerous. He will no longer obey control. The 4th stranger is trying to help his friends. He is no longer one of us. He must be stopped at once. I've got him, got 2 switches. What next?
Duchess, which one is it?
Hurry up and push the fucking button, Jamie!
Doctor, this is the Ben show, alright?
Yeah.
Oh, shut up. Okay, Doctor, fire away.
Oh, shut up.
I am Benjamin Coyle.
God.
Doctor's about to die. Hurry up, Ben.
You know, it really does change your perspective on a story when you can actually watch it rather than watch a reconstruction. Yeah. This has definitely gone up in my opinion.
Yeah. I look forward to, I mean, I know you're reviewing Davison at the moment, but I look forward to your review of your re-review of the animated version.
Yeah, and I will do it at some point. I think what I'll do is I might do it in my break. I'll have a bit of time off, and then I'll review the animation of we'll re-review the Macra Terror and get that up there. So probably I'm going to say December. I'll try and get it out in December, and then I'll put it in the playlist and whatnot. And then in the new year, I want to start the new series. So yeah.
I mean, the stories that are the other stories that are animated, like Faceless Ones and Fury from the Deep. I'm sure you could borrow the DVDs off Nick because he has the DVDs, and you could review those at some point as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not planning to rush that, so I might save some of them until I've reviewed Capaldi because, yeah, I don't want it to be constant Doctor Who. I want to review movies as well, so yeah, it's always good to have breaks in between as well. So then then it doesn't become too much of a chore. But
No, yeah, I agree with that. I mean, after I've reviewed a Doctor, or maybe two Doctors, I take a break for a while. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you're on David Tennant right now, so I imagine when you finish David Tennant, you'll probably take a break.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'll probably take a break for a little while, and then I'll move on to Matt Smith and then Peter Capaldi, and then I'm done because I'm not going to bother with Jodie Whittaker. But
Yeah. I mean, also by that point, you would have been kind of exhausted anyway. I mean, I think, getting to the end of Series 10 will be quite an achievement, actually. That's a good amount of Doctor Who reviewed. And, yeah, because it's one of the longest shows ever. So, yeah, it's a labor of love. But it'd be worth it in the end to finish it.
yeah, thank God I'm not reviewing a soap opera. Could you imagine if you reviewed every episode of Coronation Street? That started in 1960. To be reviewing 60 years worth of episodes. That'd be
It would
thousands and
just never
thousands
end.
of episodes. Yeah.
It would just never end. Funny you mentioned that. There used to be two guys from Radio Times that used to put out weekly reviews of the soaps, not just Corrie, but EastEnders, Emmerdale, Hollyoaks, and they would talk about the spoilers and stuff. And they were like 4 or 5 minute discussions every week. They don't do it anymore, sadly, but I enjoyed them when they did. But yeah, reviewing every episode would be a fucking nightmare. But anyway, so that was the Macra Terror, and yeah, I have to say I'm very impressed. When I first saw this story, it was a reconstruction, so in my mind, this is technically the first time I'm seeing it, and it is in animation, and obviously it's the best that we're gonna get. So yeah, I really appreciate the animation and what BBC did. Like, there's so much great atmosphere, the colors, the lighting, and everything. It's a wonderful story. I think the characters get a lot to do as well. Patrick Troughton is amazing. Jamie is great. He starts to get more to do. Ben and Polly are great as well. This is a good, solid story. The Macra, I mean, they're not amazing villains, but they were good. They were pretty good, and this is definitely their best story by far. I mean, well, they've only got 2 main stories, but the animation certainly makes them look threatening. The side characters are good as well in this one. The plot is good. There is that weird comedic scene which really doesn't fit the story, and that does knock it down a peg for me. But I think this is a good, solid story. The plot isn't anything majorly inventive, but it's fine. I mean, it has the suspense, it has the tension, and the music is really good as well. And I think the pacing was a lot better than I initially remembered. So yeah, I think I would give this one a solid 8 out of 10. I think it's gone up. It's gone up to an 8. It's not my favorite Troughton story, but it's a pretty good, solid one, and I'm glad I saw it again. And it's going to be staying in my collection. So yeah, that's my verdict. I'll hand the virtual microphone over to Jack.
I've already got a microphone. No, I think the Macra Terror is a great Doctor Who story. I think this is one of my favourite stories from Patrick Troughton's first season and probably his whole era. I mean, it's 4 parts. It doesn't overstay its welcome. I really like the sort of creepy surveillance aspect of it, like the 1984 aspect of it. I mean, it's ahead of its time, and the idea of this colony being controlled and people sort of being forced to be happy. And I think all the characters get a lot to do. I think Ben's quite good, how he gets brainwashed and then he sort of snaps out of it. And I think Polly's good as well. I think the Macra are pretty good villains. Not my favorite, but they're pretty intimidating in this story. And I think the animation for the story is great. It's one of the best animated Doctor Who stories. And Triton, I think, is on fine form, and I like the sets and the atmosphere, and I think the soundtrack's really great as well. And I think it's a fantastic story. I don't really have any problems with it, so I'm probably going to close off by giving it a 10 out of 10. So, yeah.
Oh, someone's generous.
Well, why not?
Yeah. No, why not? If that's what you rate it, then fine. Yeah, that pretty much concludes it. It was quite a short commentary because it's only a 4-part story. So yeah, what do you lot think of the Macra Terror? Please comment down below and let us know. And we will probably do another Doctor Who commentary at some point. So yeah, thanks very much, and thanks to Jack for joining me. And is there anything else you want to say, Jack, before we finish? Or
just that if you're watching this story, we hope you don't get crabs. Well.
Yeah. And with that note, thank you very much for watching and listening. And until next time, I'm Mr. Thomas 11. This is Jack the Film Fanatic. See you soon. Bye for now.